Please be seated. In the name of the main character, and of his harem, and of the holy waifu, Kawaii Esu. This is the Radical Rant Podcast.
Hello everybody, hope you got your Shima pantsu on and your Catboy body pillows handy, because we are here with the Church of Weeb, and it is time for the Summer 2019 episodes 4 to 6 review, that being the halfway point of the season. So we are going to be talking about all the shows that I carried over from last episode's podcast, where I talked about episodes 1 to 3, and now we are at 4 to 6, so we're talking about how we've gotten to the halfway point, or at least the halfway point of this set of 12 or 13. So, that being said, Adam aka CSRadical here with you guys as always, and it's good to be back. Looking to get a lot going further down the line here. I actually mentioned on the Radical Rant podcast that I uploaded Wednesday that I am planning on doing a little bit more with this other than just, simulcast reviews. I just haven't figured out what the first thing's going to be. I have a few ideas here and there, and it's just a matter of getting the time together to do it. Like I said before, too, in that podcast, that because of the noise that happens around on my day off in the weekdays where I could really get a lot of recording time in, until that subsides, my time is a little lesser than I want it to be. Hopefully down the line we can do this a little bit more and do a lot other things along just with the Church of Weeb, but other podcasts as well, or other ideas that I have. But until then, it's when we have a chance to do it, and I'm really rushing my ass here, so hopefully I can get this done in half an hour and then be out the door, because I got baseball to play, because I try not to be the most lazy weeb out there. I can't be a total otaku. It just doesn't work for me. So anyways, let's not waste any more time. So again, this is episodes 4 to 6. And this is no longer I'm going to hold back on spoilers thing. This is a straight, massive, spoiler-ridden podcast. So if you have not watched all of the 8 shows or any of the 8 shows that you are interested in, and the list is here, and you'll see the timestamps on the main image. You will also see it in the description below. If you have not caught up to episode 6 of any of these shows and you don't want to be spoiled, you need to skip that. This is your only warning. Only warning. If there are any spoilers you do not want to be spoiled of, turn away now, or, beware at your own risk. So anyways, we're going to start off with the same show we start off at the top, this being in alphabetical order. So, Are You Lost? So another 3 episodes have gone in the tank, and I'm about at the same point that I said I was going to be when I did this last episode. I straight up said that this show was going to be, nothing too crazy, nothing over the top, nothing that's going to be super memorable. It was just going to be a nice, easy, short form anime that was going to be just something that I just sit back, think nothing of it, and just kind of enjoy. And it's mostly been that for the next 3 episodes that we've been having here. The difference is that at least it took one episode that was a little more challenging, at least in my head, because they had to kill a rabbit in that show. They didn't obviously show it, but they pretty much showed you as much as they could without actually showing them crushing the rabbit. So that was an interesting episode, at the very least, because if there's anything that I found that I'm really squeamish at when it comes to anime, it's not even violence to humans, it's violence to what I would consider pets. Because, it's one thing, or at least, really cute things. There's a show, what was the show a couple seasons ago? Shit, I can't remember. And it's not important, but there was a show that I remember watching and thinking this is going to be, your simple, trash, action anime where it's, there's a lot of, big-breasted women, and that's pretty much what it was, until it decides to show you a bunch of fairies, and then you watch them all get slaughtered. And I'm like, what the and it wasn't they didn't show them literally cutting heads off or anything like that, but they showed a ton of these fairies just lying in pools of blood. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So that kind of stuff I'm a little iffy in. So when they got to this episode here where they're going to kill the rabbit, I'm like, oh, please don't. I know what you're trying to do, and I know the message you're trying to send here, but it's I'm not ready for this. But, it at least stayed away from the most violent stuff, so I didn't leave too scarred. Either way, But I mean, in terms of anything beyond that, I mean, the character development hasn't really changed. I mean, they're starting to, I guess, turn a little bit of a corner where they're not just being totally useless other than Homare, but the rest of them are still I mean, you're really there for Homare's act, for her, like, over-the-top shit. And they haven't really done much beyond. I think when I looked at a preview for episode 7, they're going to finally start exploring the island a little bit more. So who knows what we see with that, but if this is only 12 episodes, I'm starting to get really convinced that this is not going to end with them getting rescued. I think this is going to be a consistent thing, and whether the show gets another season or not is to be seen. But I get the feeling this is one of those things where it just never ends. They're just forever trapped on this island. So, I mean, at this point, it makes the next 6 or how many ever episodes a little bit anticlimactic because it makes it seem like there's not going to be much going on afterwards, but you know, it is what it is, and it's the kind of show that, like I said, I'm not really putting my brain into play too much on, so it's not really going to offend me that much in the end if nothing truly does come out of it. Because, I mean, it is what it is. It's a show with 4 girls that once in the blue moon get undressed and do silly shit. Like, if you were looking for something really engaging and thought-provoking, yeah, this wasn't going to be the anime to do it. Next up, we have Do You Like Your Mom? Her normal attack is See, it's the problem with the long titles. You want to say it really fast, and then you just flub it easily. So, Do You Like Your Mom? Her normal attack is 2 attacks at full power. This one actually got a little bit better. Just a little bit, not too much. It's still adorable, and I think I'm at least easing up a little bit on is it Mamako is the name of the mom? Either way. I'm easing up on her just a tiny bit, only because now we've seen 2 moms that are so much worse, and I'm like, you know what, well, she is the lesser of 2 evils here, I guess, so I think I can put up with it. In this case, they do end up finishing off Wise's mom. I finally remembered her name. And that was what it was. You know, I'm not sure really what was going on there. I think it feel like they tried to, like, quickly resolve it, and I'm thinking, I don't know, that's a lot of hate to just suddenly resolve that quick, even though, like, because I mean the entire thing was Wise's mom was basically like, children are nothing but people that just take your life away, and I mean there's truth to it in a way, but I mean you as a parent, you know, need to come to terms with the fact that that's what you gave up in terms of having children. You know, there's a reason why, me personally, and it resonates with me a bit, because I don't really have much of an interest at this point in my life. I'm 31 years old, by the way. I don't really have an interest in being a dad. And the reason for that is, well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but one of the key things is that I'm not willing to give up the little time that I have left, because I don't really have a lot of free time as it is. And if I was to have a kid, like, I'm basically giving away anything else that I have, and I don't feel like I've really had the chance to use up any free time with any sort of enjoyment. So I'm not prepared to basically say, okay, well, my life is now going to be completely taken away for the next basically 16 years minimum. And I'm not willing to do that. And I can understand from her mom's end, although I think her mom is a little less like, I just didn't get time because of this kid. No, she straight up like started hating her kids because she felt like all they were doing was taking from her and not giving anything back. And I'm like, yeah, they're your kids. They're not supposed to give you anything. That's not a contractual obligation of a child when they get birthed. They don't sign a contract that says, "Hey, I'm going to give back everything you put into this relationship too." I mean, you're a mother or you're a father. You're supposed to be the one giving a hell of a lot more than getting back. So that little bit, I half understood her, and then the other half, I'm like, nah, you're a lost cause. But I mean, they finished that off pretty quick. The resolution didn't quite feel like that realistic. It seemed just like they were just, you know, waving a magic wand and everything was fine again, and you know, that usual trope that you see in anime where just stuff gets resolved in 5 seconds flat, even though there's a hell of a lot longer amount of hatred that goes in line with that. And now we're moving on to a new character, Medi, and I'm not sure what her real personality is yet. So her situation is that her mom is one of those you have to win at everything, and she will go out of her way to make sure that happens. So she seems like the rich bitch type that's like paying people off to give her victories and all these kind of things. And you can tell that this girl is basically in a state of like, why am I alive? Like, what's the point? I'm literally not allowed to do anything I want to do. I can't be me. I can't even fail because apparently that's not the right me. So you see like and this is where I'm unsure if it's like a facade, her normal personality, which is very like loving and bright and like bubbly and stuff of that ilk, but behind the scenes, especially as we see at the end of episode 6, she is fucking damaged. She is seriously like on a murder, like she's almost on a yandere rampage going on here where she's just gonna fucking slaughter everybody, especially her mom, because she hates her that goddamn much. And we haven't seen specifically if like maybe she's tried her best to love her mom and her mom's not giving anything back, and so she is grown to resent her, or if literally she's never liked her mom and she's just putting on the facade to make her mom feel better because, I don't know, maybe mom was left at, dad left, or mom's in some real crazy emotional state, or who knows, maybe she's an alcoholic. Like, there could be a lot of things behind it, and we haven't quite seen what that is yet. We just seen that there is clearly a lot of anger between Medi and her mother, and it's not pretty, and we're getting to that point where we're going to see it explode probably in the 7th episode, I would assume. If it doesn't, it's only going to be one more after that for sure. But other than that, I mean, they've tried to sexualize the main character's mom a little bit too much. And mom got tentacled in episode 6 as well. And I'm like, okay, this would be somewhat attractive if the voice actually like was something different, but because her voice is so annoying that nothing that she does can ever be considered attractive, because that voice is just that much of a buzzkill. Now the bitch mom, they had the classic school swimsuit episode on episode 6, and the mom had her own thing on and she looked fucking gorgeous, so that was fair. I still would have picked Wise over her just because I have a thing for smaller girls, and I mean smaller isn't flat-chested in this case. But either way, like, I'm like, okay, mom finally wins in something here. At least the bitch mom finally won something fairly, I guess. But other than that, I mean, the ecchi content of the show is not like over the top overbearing, except in this recent episode where there was 2 separate occasions where Mamiko was fondled twice, once by Shirase and once by the tentacle monster, which, when you live in an apartment building, and I know that it doesn't really echo outside my apartment unless you're like standing right next to the door outside, but either way, like, the uncomfortableness of like putting on a show and then all of a sudden hearing like over the top like sexual moaning is a little much when it comes way to left field, at least in this case specifically, because it seems like that show is not necessarily the place for it. But either way, I've kind of warmed up to it a little bit more, just because I guess maybe I've just gotten adjusted to the mom's annoyingness a little bit anyway. And I mean, it still is a little cheesy and funny, so I mean, it has that going for it. But at the same time, it's like, if they just cut down a little bit on the almost incest angle still, because they didn't use it nearly as hard in the last 3 episodes, but they're still trying pretty hard, because mom's still hugging her, teenage boy into her frickin' breasts constantly. So there is that to talk about. But either way, so far this show, which I thought was one of the danger shows, this one's actually proving to at least better itself a little bit. So I'm having a hard time thinking if I'm going to drop the show. But actually, honestly, by the time that we get to the end here, I don't think there's going to be any shows that get dropped, barring some really, really, really irritating shit. There is only a couple of shows that once I get past the halfway point that I'll ever drop. Big Order was the biggest one, because literally the first 6 episodes of that show are amazing. And as soon as it gets into the second half, it starts using the sister character, and she is the most unlikable bitch I've ever seen. And they try to use her as like being the main focal point from the rest of the show, and it just takes away all the fun, all the stupidity, because it was over the top and funny, and then it just suddenly got like a little bit too serious and awkward, and it was just like, I got really fucking pissed at that show, because I'm like, you had one of my favorite shows at the start of the season, and you just fucked it up exponentially. I don't think any of the shows here can do that, but I've been proven wrong before, so you never know. Let's see. Next up, Dr. Stone. I did mention last episode on this show that I was a little nervous about how this show would go further down the line. We're 6 episodes in now. I'm still worrying a little bit where it might go, but I'm not feeling that at all yet. I'm not seeing anything that's changing my attention here. Luckily, I mean, it was pretty obvious. If they kill off the main character in the first 3 episodes, that'd be fucking stupid. But we get a little bit of a backstory while Senku is healing from basically having his neck broken and killed. But because of the healing properties of the stone, he still had that little bit on his neck, and apparently it was just in the perfect spot so that, you know, it could heal the broken bone that... is it Setsuna? I can't remember. But Primate Boy over there snapped his neck, so they had to heal him up, and he is back. But before we got him back, we had a little bit of a backstory on Senku, which honestly didn't really change anything. I mean, his character is still what it is. The backstory really didn't make me feel any better or worse for him. We didn't really get many answers either to what's going on still. I mean, we see how Senku started out, but we didn't really... I mean, the only thing we really learned is that he moved his buddy, which I'm blanking on his name right now, the lovable idiot. He was the one that dragged him into the cave where he could heal up. And other than that, not much else really came of the flashbacks, so we're still left with the mystery of what the hell this petrification thing is. I don't know if they're going to explain it. I don't even know if they've actually explained the manga yet. I haven't tried to look because I don't want to spoil myself. But yeah, Senku he comes back to life, and he has Yuzuhira. Is it Yuzuriha or fuck? Either way, they have the girl and the guy who, again, I'm blanking on his name and I don't know why. He has him go back to Primate Boy's group as sort of spies in a way to see what he's doing and to see how far he is. And Senku's goal is to go and find the people that created those smoke screens when they were testing out gunpowder in the earlier episodes, to see if A, who they are, B, how far advanced they must be, and see if we can get them to go on his side so they can fight, you know, the guy who wants to basically kill half the population, if not more. And by the end of episode 6, he sees at least one of them, and it's basically a blonde girl trying to, you know, take Hestia's job of being a lolly that has gigantic tits. And the bonus is that she's got a cat look to her. So there's the extra bonus to that. But she somehow doesn't die from a tree fucking falling on her. And Senku uses science or pulleys to help her out. And she seems to have fallen for him in a way. I don't know if she's gotten too far into it, but she seems like she's a little bit curious of him now. And the way that it seems to be is that she has been around a lot longer than Senku has. So Senku may not be the first person to be revived. In fact, she has no idea of science. So the idea is that it's very possible that one of two things have happened. Either she's been revived for a while and people have just slowly denigrated and like gone back down to humans before science was a thing, or this is a completely brand new set of human beings that the Earth has recreated since the petrification. So that hasn't been explained yet, but that is a very curious development. I'm not sure which of the two it is. I'm leaning towards it being brand new humans that the Earth has created, which would be a very interesting turn of events and definitely adds a lot more into the story of Senku trying to beat them with science. So he's going to teach them in the same way that like Rimuru in That Time I Got Reincarnated by a Slime had to teach people about all the things he could do. But I'm liking where it's going. It's almost like a Horizon Zero Dawn sort of feel to it with this new girl and probably the rest of her tribe or whatever they call themselves in the show. So I'm actually surprisingly still more than interested in the show, and it seems like this show, as it keeps going further, keeps going further, it's going to maybe just be one of those shows that Crunchyroll shoves down our throats, and I actually really like. And the last time I think that would have happened would have been Erased, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think all the shows that Crunchyroll was really pushing, and I mean really pushing, as in like constantly advertising it, not just the once in a blue moon thing like they did with Isekai Mao. But yeah, this show's actually been a lot more impressive than I thought it was going to be, and it keeps continuing to impress me, which I can't be more happy about. So let's move on to Given. And this show continuously is being my favorite one, even though it honestly isn't doing that much. It's kind of this weird thing where I'm getting to enjoy myself as a musician while I watch the show, and it continues to do that. Now we're getting a little bit more drama and story into things. We're seeing a bit of romance in two different sides too, because we're not seeing just Uenoyama, I think. Because what's his first name? Is I think it's Ritsuka, and then Sato is the other guy, and I think Akihiko is like the punk looking guy, and I just can't think of who the ponytail guy is. But these two groups, or these two pairs, seem to have their own relationship starting. I mean, obviously, Ritsuka and Sato are doing their own thing, and that's developing. And we got a bit of an implication, I think it was episode 5, that Ponytail guy actually is really in love with Akihiko and has been for quite some time, and is constantly jealous of the fact that that guy is getting other dudes constantly. So there's that bonus. But the main thing, honestly, throughout the last 3 episodes has been Ritsuka, after hearing Sato singing, really wants to get him involved in the band, and it figures that the way he can do it is by taking that song that Sato is singing and has no idea what it's from, has no idea if there's words for it. So he takes that just vocal line that he's heard and basically memorized because he's that infatuated by it, and starts writing music to accompany it. And that's how he's trying to involve Sato in the band. I mean, obviously there's also the idea that the guy's in love with Sato. He doesn't really know why yet. I mean, by the end of episode 6, when Sato explains that his tragic backstory is that he was romantically involved with another guy and the guy just suddenly passed, we're not sure how yet. And that guitar that he carried around all this time was this guy's. His name was Yuki. And the song seems to be a reflection of the feelings that he has with this one guy and can't quite explain it. But as he explains it, Ritsuka even admits to himself that he's feeling jealousy. So you can tell that he's aware that there's something, and he's just not quite sure what to do about it yet. Because he's not... I mean, as far as we know, he hasn't had any romantic relationships before, so he's going in fresh by the looks of it. But at this point, you know, he's just going through the motions and trying to figure out where the fuck he stands. And at the same time, he's also trying to, like, get Sato involved in this band, because it's the first time in forever, it seems, that he's so emotionally invested in music again, to the point that, like, he was staying up all night trying to write this music and just can't seem to, you know, get the shit on track. He's constantly napping at school and whatever else, trying to, like, get this obsession out of him. And it's been very interesting in the sense of he's trying to balance that, still teaching Sato how to play guitar, trying to figure out how the fuck he feels about the guy and say something about it, but he's also dancing around now knowing that there's this really, really sad emotional thing that Sato's dealing with and still can't quite put into words. I imagine by the end of this season that he'll have written the song and he'll actually have words to go with how he feels. But up until that point, it's honestly just a very calming, I guess, pseudo-romance story, and it just hasn't really gone anywhere yet. But again, the music element of it is also what's keeping me really invested, and all 4 characters are just really easy to get into. Whereas I find a lot of times in any romantic anime, whether it's boy love, whether it's yuri, whether it's straight, it doesn't matter. A lot of the times, a good chunk of the characters that are being romantically involved are often either very one-dimensional or very annoying and very easy to dislike. Whereas between the 4 of them, there isn't really one that's that bad. I mean, the only one that you really have is the girl that seems to be interested in Ritsuka. And she's just kind of boring. She's like your classic, like, boring girl next door sort of character. Isn't really doing anything. And I feel like that's going to come out eventually. Because I think when she's trying to half ward Ritsuka off of Sato, I think for the reasons that any person that's romantically interested in a person is trying to do. You're trying to keep them for yourself. A little bit of selfishness there. And it seems like that's the route she's taking, and it seems like it's going to probably explode at some point in this season. I mean, who knows? We've only got, I assume, 6 episodes left, so we'll see what goes on from there. But at this point, there's a lot of things that need to be pushed to the forefront real quick now that we're only going to have 6 left. And this is assuming that there isn't a second season. So, because that's the part. I play every one of these shows like I'm assuming that it's not going to keep going after 12. So, looking at the arc, it's thinking, all right, you really got to start pushing here, because they gotta figure out how Sato feels. They gotta write the song. They gotta play that show that they're supposed to be doing. The girls gotta say something. The ponytail guy's gotta confess to Akihiko. Ritsuka's gotta figure out how the fuck he feels. Like, there's a lot to happen in 6 episodes, so any filler is suddenly going to start wasting time eventually. So we have to see in the next 6 episodes just where it decides to go, and I guess we'll see how it goes from there. Next up, the other long one. Second of the long ones, but if it's for my daughter, I'd even defeat a demon lord. Hasn't gotten bad yet, from what I heard. What was supposed to happen, it hasn't gotten there yet. It's still safe. We're still good. It's sort of wearing off a little bit, but not too much. I mean, Dale is starting to get very annoying, but Latina kind of quickly squelches that pretty fast. Some of the stuff they're trying to slide in there, like the one nun or teacher or whatever in that school that just hates devils and was like being really crude to her, and it seemed out of place. It seems out of nowhere, and it's not really led to anything. I don't know if this girl's going to show up again. I don't know if there's really any purpose to it other than just making Latina sad for an episode, which I suppose if you want to get people emotionally invested, I guess that's a way to do it. But in terms of story, the flow was just a little off in that section, and it's kind of quickly gotten away from that. Not to mention that they're also throwing a little bit of like a half romance in there with Rudy, because it clearly looks like he has some sort of curiosity with Latina, and I'm thinking, you're both like 8 or 9, I think, or like 10 at most. I don't think you're that old. So it's like, let's try not to do anything else with that. Let's just keep it where it is. But I mean, otherwise, I don't know if there's really much I can say about it. Otherwise, I mean, as I'm going here, episode 6 ends with them going back to Dale's hometown for something. So it's Latina's first time out since being found, and it was also the first time that she visited her father's grave. So, I mean, there's something there. We've learned that she is a little more capable in magic than we thought. And I keep wondering if this is suddenly going to turn into a story where Latina is like this uncontrollable danger in terms of like her magic power and stuff like that. But it hasn't really tipped any sort of a hand yet, so I'm not really sure what direction it wants to go in. And because of that, like, I don't hate nor like the last 3 episodes, because I don't really feel like it's done anything to kind of swing the pendulum at all. It's just kind of been standstill. And at first, Do You Like Your Mom was being the show that was at the bottom, and now this show is slowly kind of like wiggling its way down there, because it's not really accomplishing anything. It's just being cute. And there are a lot of shows that can be cute but also add a little bit more to it. It's not really being funny. It's not really being like that emotional. It's more just being like, hey, she's cute. And I'm like, yes, okay, but what are you going to do otherwise? And they haven't really shown that. I mean, maybe it's like it's differently for other people, but for me, it's just I'm not feeling like there's too much coming out of this show, so much as it's just trying to have an excuse to have just a cute girl on screen, and that's it. And I know that Moe can be pretty one-dimensional at times, but even Moe has some substance to it beyond just being cute girls doing cute things. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't know if I'll drop the show unless it does the weird thing that I don't want it to do, that I've heard people say it does. But, I mean, until it gets to that point, you know, it's probably going to be just fine. It just won't be... It'll be kind of like what Are You Lost is, where it's just a show that I watch and I'm not completely like over the hill and I'm going to tell people about the show constantly. It's not quite that. Isekai Cheat Magician has kind of opened up a little bit more, but really hasn't done too much either. Again, it's just a mindless show. I'm not going to take too much out of it. It's people with cheat level superpowers that can do lots of things when normal people can't. And the villain hasn't really revealed to see what he really wants to do. It just seems like he's constantly testing. I feel like at this point he's going to Crimson Pact Miura, just because it seems like that's the thing he has to do at this point, unless he does it to oh my god, what's the black hair girl's name? It's 6 letters. I know that much, and I just can't figure out what her goddamn name is. But that seems to be the only direction that the show can go in, is that it's going to have to Crimson Pact one of the two. Because it's not going to Crimson Pact Itsuki, and it's not going to do it to Rin either. So I have a hard time believing that it's going to go anywhere beyond that. So, I mean, where do you go? The villain is just kind of sitting there, like, looking at them being like, oh, this is exactly what I expected. It's like, well, what the fuck are you working towards? Like, you're leading me along and giving me just enough to be somewhat curious, but you're not doing anything. You're not even tipping a hand to give me a chance to figure out what he wants to do. And I keep getting suspicions that the guy might be an isekai character as well, and is maybe using it as a place of power, or has kind of been long gone. Like, maybe he's been there for a long time and he's just tired of people. I don't know. There's a lot, though, that's just out there in the open, and there's no real direction to it. So I still like the show because I do like the characters, like the main 4 specifically. That being the one guy and the 3 girls that he's been working with. Other than that, though, like, I don't really have too much to attach to. So I'm hoping that as we've turned the corner now, it really starts to step things up, because it's faltering, because it's not really showing me anything, and it's not accomplishing much, which is not really a great thing to do if you're an anime. You want to keep people invested if you're going to have me coming back every week, so you're going to have to give me something to want to see. Otherwise, I'm just going through the motions. Second last thing here, we got, is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Now that Apollo has quickly been ousted, I still don't know how I feel about things yet. This is the part that's kind of irritating me. And I haven't said this anywhere yet. I'm probably going to tweet this as soon as I put the podcast down, because I feel like I need to say it on Twitter as well. I do not like the fact that we are now 6 episodes into the show and they have not been in the dungeon once. Not once. I'm really confused as to what the hell they're trying to do here. Because in 6 episodes, we said hi to everybody again. The Apollo family came in and just fucked everything up. Got quickly ousted. Now the Hestia Familia has a few new members, which I'll get to in a second. But now they're fighting potentially another family, because now there's another god, or in this case another goddess, who wants to fuck the shit out of Belle and is trying to fuck over Freya at the same time. So I'm sitting here being like, so where's the point that Belle's trying to become a better adventurer? Because all he's doing now is just dealing with petty drama. He's not learning anything new. He's not exploring the dungeon further. We're not seeing him fight new monsters and learn new skills. We're not seeing him get any closer to ice. We're not seeing anything of that ilk. And instead, all we're seeing is a bunch of petty infighting. And I'm not really sure where it's going. But, I mean, they have made some things that made me really happy. I mean, the new Familia now being more than just Belle and Hestia is a really nice touch. That being that they have 3 new members. Obviously, Lily has finally gotten out of the clutches of the Soma Familia and is able to be in a loving family. Welf goes out of his way to leave the Hephaestus family and pursue his own goals in the Hestia family. And maybe I've forgotten some of the first season, but seeing Mikoto making the switch as well, I was very weirded out by, because I mean, I know that she feels responsible for Belle and Lily nearly dying because she sent monsters at them to get away. But I don't know if the relationship was necessarily too big between her and Belle that I felt like she had a reason to go and switch. I mean, her friends are still there in Chigusa and what's the fucking big guy's name? I can't think of his name right now. But she's got her friends there, and even now, like, as we end this sixth episode, she's working with Chizuga again to find an old friend. And I'm sitting there being like, man, like, it seems like you're more interested in what your own family is up to than what's going on here. So Mikoto, as much as I like her, it's a little bit of a strange twist of events. I mean, otherwise, though, it's nice to see all of them having a spot. I was really disappointed to see that Daphne and Cassandra didn't make the switch. I have, like, spoiled myself slightly by accident and found out that they joined the Miyake family with Naza, which I also didn't know was just the two of them. So I'm glad Naza's getting some friends here. Otherwise, like, it's been... Episode 4 was just them beating up Apollo. Episode 5 was one of the better fan service episodes because it put the bathing scene and turned it upside down, and I'll get to that in a moment. And this last episode is... excuse me. I'm surprised it took me that long to not cough up a lung there. The last episode has been, I guess, also sort of fan servicey because they go into the city of Lust, where Ishtar, the goddess of lust, is residing. It's basically like a red light district. And he gets ravaged by a bunch of Amazons, which wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world had it not been for that captain that, what the fuck was she? Like, she looked like one of those characters you'd see in like a Studio Ghibli movie, like the crazy over-the-top, like massive, like fat woman character, which is just so strange to see. But yeah, that was a little bit off-putting. And then he ends up seeing this blonde fox girl that I'm assuming is the friend that Mikoto and Chizuga are looking for. But we see her and she's adorable, and then she starts talking, and then you're like, oh, I hate you immediately. Because she's like, I'm a prostitute, I'm not worth anything, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Here comes this character that hates herself constantly. Because those are fun. But it's the kind of characters that you're just like, okay, please just resolve this quickly and make her open up and not be a total unlikable character. But otherwise, that episode was also just kind of meh. The only one that was really interesting was episode 5, and that being the fan servicey thing. So Hestia beats Apollo in the war game, gets his mansion. Apollo is sent back to the heavens, and she gets all the money, but she spends it not on the massive debt that she got for the Hestia Knight that she made Hephaestus buy or make for her. No, she spends it on furnishing up the place and changing it over and giving things like Wealth his own blacksmith area, which was nice, and he gives Mikoto like this massive like Eastern like bath like house for both the guys and the girls. And apparently that's all the money that she had. Like, she didn't do anything for Lily, she didn't do anything for Belle, she didn't even do anything for herself. Like, it just seemed like she just spent it on those two and then just cleaned the place. And I'm like, really? That's all you did? You sure? And then they try to recruit everybody, but then they find out about the debt because Mikoto finds the receipt and, decides not to wait until after people have signed up. She screws it all up. So it turns into an episode of Konosuba where they're living in a giant house, but they have no money. So I'm just waiting to see who Megumin is in this case. But it is what it is. It was just a strange turn of events. I guess it's just waving the wand and making things move forward. But like I said, the one thing that was really great about that episode was the bath scene. And the reason for that, and you're thinking, oh, you just got to see all the girls naked. It's like, no, I'm bi. I was curious in both Belle and Welf as well, who looked a little skeletal, but it is what it is. If they at least show me some boy butt, I might have changed my mind a little bit. But you deal with it as it comes. But the entire point of that scene was it was the complete opposite. The guys didn't do any peeking, and the girls were doing it all. Hestia obviously was leading the charge. Lily was trying to. Mikoto was trying not to, and then eventually couldn't help herself. And it was just funny because it was a polar opposite. It was so unlike what you normally see in those kind of scenes, and I appreciate that. In the same vein that a long time ago I wrote an article on my blog on CSRadical.com where I talked about how I'm so annoyed that so many shows, especially harems, never show guys doing anything of a sexual nature like undressing or showering or anything like that. And then I watch a show like Phantasy Star Online 2, where I think nothing of it. I think it's just some random, like, just game tie-in anime that's not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden, there's a hot spring, and you see full-on boy ass. And not even, like, half-ass boy ass, like, nice boy ass. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Why isn't anime fucking at least being a little bit fair? Because here's the thing, and I've said this before. I don't understand why anime is so apprehensive about showing boys in the same light as girls in the same shows. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care what the target market is. You're a heterosexual male. If you see a naked guy, it shouldn't be doing anything to you. You're not going to suddenly turn gay because you saw Belle's ass. You know, you're not going to change anything. So the idea that like this shit happens, it's a little once in a blue moon. It's refreshing, and then at the same time, it's embarrassing that that's all that happens. Like, Infinite Stratos never has a scene where Ichiga's naked. Some shows do it, and then some shows just kind of shy away from it, and it's kind of annoying. And I'm glad that at least in this case, they not only obviously showed the guys bathing, but also didn't have them wearing towels, and the girls were doing the peeping instead. So it was a complete total flip of events here. So I appreciate that. But as a whole, in these 3 episodes, I'm concerned only because I'm not sure what the show is trying to do, and it's not really doing what I would like it to do. It's not focusing on the dungeon. It's focusing on everything outside of the dungeon now. And it's not as interesting to me because they're introducing a lot of new characters really fast. Whereas you could have had one central character, I don't know, Freya still, and they could have used that. And now it's just like, here's all these other people that want Belle's dick apparently. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is getting weird. Like, I know that's like, I don't think that many women would find Belle that cute considering all the other guys that are out there. So apparently every goddess in the world just has a thing for like quasi Shota boys. I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, I'm not going to drop the show at any point. Like, I love this show regardless, but man, it's been a bit of a letdown in all things considered because it just quite hasn't hit the direction I wish it would. And then last here, I got like 10 minutes left, so I'm going to rush through Magical Senpai here. So, once again, this show is just cheesy, funny stuff. It's just a cheesy show. It has a little bit of ecchi in there. They finally brought in a couple new characters in who I really don't like that much. So it hasn't helped on that front. Although I've definitely opened up to why can't I think of her name? I don't even know. Does she actually have a name, or is it just like Magician Girl? I can't remember what they call her in this, but because I mean I know the guy is Assistant Coon, but I can't remember what the girl is. But either way, she's adorable. I like her. And the new characters they brought in, like the brother and sister, where the sister has a brother complex, except the brother is like the fattest fuck, and somehow she's still like incestuous about her. It's like, about him. It's like, oh, okay, this is a bit strange. I wish they bring in the science girl a little bit more because I actually like her a little bit. But for what it is, like the 3 episodes we've seen since, I've smiled at and enjoyed them. It's just, again, it's one of those shows. It's like, man, if you just did a little bit more of this, I'd love you a whole lot more. But I mean, otherwise, like, I don't know. I can't really tell you much about this show beyond that. I mean, there's not like real spoilers to the show. And I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to get out of here. I'm just, it's a show where it's a girl trying to do magic tricks, fails constantly, and usually fails in a case where like she falls over and shows her ass, or she falls over and like ties herself up and looks like it's bondage. Like, it's cheesy and it's over-sexualized and it's funny that way, and that's really what it is. Like, it's not doing anything too specific. I mean, otherwise, I mean, the only other thing of note was the guy the guy was talking to like that weird animal puppet thing and was talking to it like he was in love with it, and the girl who was hiding in that magic box heard that and thought it meant that he loved her, which I think in the end might be a possibility, but at this point it's not quite there yet. And then when she reveals that that's what she thinks, he tells her no, and that's really the only thing of note really in this entire series thus far. It's just a comedy short. It's not anything too special. Like, I can't really give you much else beyond it. So we're going to end it there. So like I said, whenever I have a chance to really get some extra recording time in, I don't know when that's going to be. I'm looking at like September isn't until I have my next like stat holiday, so unless I take time off, which I'm not really keen on doing at this point just to record, it might still be that the next time you see the Church of Weeb is going to be episode 7 and 9. My goal is to hopefully get one more, though, that isn't that. But if it is what it is, then, you know, we'll see as we get there. But I want to do something, and I'm not sure what I want to do. It could be something like going through my anime list and talking about all the 10 out of 10 shows that I've given, or talking about specifically one show just in general, or talking about specific tropes. Like, I'm not sure what I want to do first. It's a matter of finding that thing I want to do first, go at that, and then the next time I have a chance to record, maybe I'll do that. But otherwise, we're still sticking on this tri-weekly format, and hopefully, this construction soon stops. I mean, I don't know how far they're along on the other side. I mean, it's not nearly as loud as it was when it was on my side of the apartment, but it's still enough that the microphone catches it, so I can't ignore it. But otherwise, I mean, we'll see where it goes, and hopefully the Church of Weeb can get more than just these episodic reviews and move on to something a little more fun too, where I can just go on a million tangents and have some fun here. So, with that being said, guys, thanks for watching once more. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave comments below on stuff that you've been watching or comments you have on the shows that I've been reviewing. And don't forget to share this with everybody else that that would be curious about anime. And not to mention, there's other content like the Radical Rant podcast. I'm hopefully going to be working on getting a wrestling one started. Obviously, August 31st is All Elite Wrestling's All Out pay-per-view, which I will be reviewing for sure. But other than that, that's the thing that's ahead of time. And obviously, we'll have the podcast up on Wednesday for the Radical Rant podcast. So, that being said, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.